myself as a little bit picky when it comes to giving out 5 stars, but as I was looking through the 30-ish books that I've given 5 stars since I became an avid reader, some of these, my opinions definitely changed a little bit, but more than that, my reading taste is very much so all over the place. This is not. This is actually kind of out of order a little. We are jumping back to the fall of 2022 when I first started loving reading again, and I had some series that were so impactful to me that it actually made me fall in love with reading. So the first series I have to give credit to, gotta get the whole thing out. The ACOTAR series. I wasn't on Book Talk at the time. I actually was just browsing the Barnes & Noble to see if there's anything that stood out to me, and my husband was more involved in booktube. He had heard stuff about ACOTAR, so he recommended it to me, not knowing that it does have a lot of spice in the series. Spice meaning smut, and I don't read smut. I would say it was very much so getting uncomfortable for me because I was skipping a lot of the book, and that's just not enjoyable for anyone. The reason why I have it on my 5 stars list is because I did give it 5 stars at the time, but this is considered fantasy romance, and it's adult fantasy. I had never read anything in this genre before, so when, oh no, my camera's dying. Yes, indeed. My camera did die within probably 2 minutes of filming, but I'm back now. I do have to give credit to the series for literally helping me become a reader. I think it was the structure of the series as a whole. It was very fast moving to me. I know there's differing opinions on that, but for me, I thought it was pretty fast paced, and I just loved the characters. I loved the world, and the magic system was pretty simple, so I understood it really well. A lot of things were going for the series, and I really think this is a huge reason why I continued reading after I had like a good few books under my belt at this point. Now, at the time, I did give the first book, ACOTAR, 5 stars. I don't know if I would now, but this isn't my favorite book out of the series. My favorite is ACOWAR, the 3rd one, but usually the first book is described as a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but adult. First, I would be a very bad friend if I did not tell you about the bookish deals going on right now. That is Book of the Month. They are kind of the sponsor of today's video. If you don't know what Book of the Month is, it is a monthly subscription service that is delivered right at your doorstep. And there is a team at Book of the Month that creates a list of the best new and emerging authors that you can select Best Author Wins, I thought, was a really interesting pick for December. This one was way too good to pass up. I don't think you're ready for this next book. I got the Dagger and the Flame in my Book of the Month box last year. It ended up being one of my favorite reads, and I just got the sequel. This is The Rebel in the Rose by Catherine Doyle. I am so excited to read this one, and if it wasn't for Book of the Month, I probably wouldn't have heard about this series. And if you've been wanting to test out Book of the Month yourself, you could get yourself a book and a book for someone else, wrap it up and gift it to them this holiday season. You can get your first book for only $5 plus a free hat of your choosing with the code HOLLY. Thank you so much, Book of the Month, for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to past me now. The next one that I absolutely loved and gave 5 stars, I think this was the first strictly romance book that I gave 5 stars. It's The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This was another huge book talk book, and what I really loved about this one was the fact that this is a STEM romance. The main character is a 3rd-year PhD candidate, and she ends up having to fake date one of the professors who is like a young professor. It is so funny because the main character is so quirky, but in just such a lovable, sweet, and wholesome way. So I won't say the book is wholesome, but I'll say she is wholesome and really cute. So I really loved this one. I loved the setting. There was a lot that I honestly loved about it. So overall, it was a 5 stars for me. Then we have my first young adult mystery thriller, and this was actually one of my first mystery thrillers ever. I was really scared of this genre, and the first book that I picked up in the genre became a 5 star for me. You've probably heard of it, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This book is 100% worth the 5-star rating. I still to this day can confidently say that. I loved this book. It was so twisty. I genuinely had no idea where Holly Jackson was taking us. I could not keep up with all of the reveals that were happening, and the pacing was fantastic. There's a murder that happens in the main character Pip's town, and she tries to solve it 5 years later, and it's a really fascinating story. And there's also a TV show, so if you're interested, you should read the book and then watch the show, because the show is really fun as well. And I know this is also part of a series, but I've only read the first book. Matcha sip, matcha sip. This is when my reading taste starts to kind of change a little bit. You'll see another shift. I read The Hobbit by, of course, J.R.R. Tolkien, and this is a classic. This is fantasy, mythology at its core, and I love Tolkien. I also love C.S. Lewis, and they're contemporaries and great friends. The Hobbit, I'd seen the movie as an adult, and I loved the story of the movie, so reading the book was definitely a completely different experience. The movie is very action-packed. It's also just a completely different pacing than the movie, and it's not as flashy as the movie. The book is a different journey. I am the problem, not Tolkien. You take two kids, one's an iPad kid, and the other one is fully reading classics at the age of 5. Let's say classics like Jane Austen, okay? I, in that instance, would be more of the iPad kid. It's just a difference of where we're at. But I know people really dive super deep into this entire world and Tolkien's works, and that's very commendable because I would get confused. I think this was a huge shift in my reading, okay? 2023, I read Red Rising towards the beginning of the year because my husband got this recommendation from my uncle who read it back whenever I think it was published. This was not like huge on YouTube, okay? This was before all that. My husband read it and he was like, you should read this. So Ian and I did a book swap video and I read this book, absolutely bawled my eyes out, gave it 5 stars. This book really shifted how I looked at other genres. So the best way that the first book can be described, The Hunger Games on Mars. That is only for one section of the book, but honestly, I would be here for a long time if I really stripped it down and told you what the book is about. Imagine it is the children of the capital, okay? The highest in society. They're the ones in the Hunger Games. That's what the first book of Red Rising is like. The rest of the series, I am up to now Lightbringer. I need to read it, but I'm waiting until Red God is going to be announced, and then I'll read Lightbringer. My other 5 stars of the series is the third book, Morning Star. This is actually one of my favorite books ever written, and this is undeniably my favorite book of the series. And then the, let's see, Iron Gold is the 4th book, I think. There's definitely a different feel from Iron Gold to Morning Star. These books really challenge me and I just love them. And it is all an adult sci-fi series. After that, I read my first Emily Henry book because she had just released it, and it is Happy Place. This book made me realize what kind of prose I really look for and love in the romance genre. I feel like everyone has that Emily Henry book that they relate to or that just sticks with them, and this was the one for me. Happy Place really stood out to me. I think what stood out to me about this book the most is it also centered around a group of friends and their drama because they're not being honest with each other. And one of the biggest things being 2 of the friends in the friend group have been dating for as long as this friend group has been around, but they actually split up and the friends don't know, so they have to fake date just for face. Doesn't that sound like a terrible idea? You should read about it. Next up, I have Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I really enjoyed this little duology. I go back and forth on if I think this is still a 5 star. I think I'd probably lower it a little bit because honestly, I rarely think about it. I haven't thought about it in probably a couple of years, but I did really enjoy it when I read it. This is the second book though. The first book is about this group that performs a heist. I'm starting to realize these are out of order, so in editing, I'm gonna have to like sort this all out. I read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I am a huge Blake Crouch fan. This was the first book I read by him, and he writes sci-fi thrillers. Basically, the main character is kidnapped, wakes up, and is living a life that he does not remember. He is no longer married to the woman that he was married to. He no longer has his son, and he's trying to figure out how to go back to his life. Or is that the life that was the dream? Which one is it? This book broke so many walls for me and barriers. I think once I read this one, I just really did not mind what genre I picked up from here on out. I was pretty much willing to read anything, so I'm really glad that I read this book. And it wasn't only the book I loved. Blake Crouch is a new favorite author of mine, and he is actually a genius. He breaks it down really well for the reader, but he also does challenge his readers a little bit. So that's one thing that I love, and he really plays on scientific theories. So you never know what you're gonna get. I have one of my favorite books of all time, and if you have been subscribed to my channel for a while, then you already probably know what I'm gonna say, and you're probably very tired of hearing me talk about it all the time. But it is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. This book is so freaking good. This was not my first Stephen King book that I ever read. I read Misery first. Pet Sematary was the first horror book that I ever read, and I did not know horror could be done in this way. He has a talent at making you forget about all of the horrific things that are starting to build up. You're just so focused on the loveliness of the families that he writes about and the characters or the setting. This one is great. I'm sure you've heard it. Sometimes Dead is Better. And this follows the Creed family. They just moved into this house that is sitting right on a strip of road where a lot of big trucks run through, and unfortunately end up taking the life of many of the neighboring pets. So there is a pet cemetery on the Creed family's property, so a lot of the kids bury their pets there, and it seems like Louis Creed is being warned about a few things other than just the pet cemetery. But this is not a 5 stars. I will say that. It's a 6 stars. Honestly now, I don't even know what order I'm going in. This is kind of all over the place. We're just gonna go with the next one, Billy Summers by Stephen King. I can barely talk about this book without crying because I love it so much. This is one of Stephen King's, I would say, crime fiction. This one was so captivating because the main character, his name's Billy Summers, he is a killer for hire, and he only kills bad people. He's ready to hang this up though. He's ready to retire, but he gets one last offer that's too good to pass up. So, of course, what could go wrong? Next up, we have a book that really just opened a door for me in reading this genre. And I picked this book up just because I hadn't heard anything about it. I just saw the cover and it looked interesting to me, but it did say that it was a national bestseller. So I was like, oh, okay, let me see what this is about. And it's Lovely War by Julie Berry. This is young adult historical fiction, and this was such a great place, I think, for me to start reading in the genre. It really focuses on World War I, which was really, really enlightening to read about, but reading about the war from different POVs. So one of the POVs is literally a man that is on the front lines. He is in the fire. Then we have another woman who was in Belgium right at the height of the war, and she went through some gruesome things. So it was just really insightful reading about different perspectives of people that were in different places during the war, and then seeing how their stories just beautifully coincide and then just merge was so, even to today, I think about this book often. I have gotten many of my friends to read it. Let me just try and convince you watching at home. You're a brand new piece of sheet music, she said slowly. For a song which once played, I'd swear I'd always known. I kind of want to reread it, actually. I think I'm going to set it aside to reread. Next up, we have another book that was definitely inspired by a lot of history, but it is fantasy, and it is A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. I honestly never thought I would read this book, but I did. I picked it up and I absolutely loved it. I needed to see what I thought about it for myself because I had heard so many people in my life talk about how much they loved the books, loved just the show in general. Definitely wanted to give it a try and I loved it. I 100% think this is worth 5-6 stars. Like, it is so impressive, and George R. R. Martin, please finish the series. I have finished A Clash of Kings this year, and so now I need to read A Storm of Swords, but I just haven't yet, and I'm in no rush. And to the people that are rushing me and just like randomly commenting and yelling at me to finish it, you're not making me want to finish it any faster. And he's taking his time, I'm gonna take my time. Honestly, this is so hard to describe. I'm just gonna say it's a Game of Thrones. This makes me want to read A Storm of Swords now. Next up, we have Little Women by Louisa A. Alcott. This cover is so beautiful. I love Little Women so much, so that this is like my 4th copy. I love this story so much, just like so many of us. This is a classic. If you don't know, it follows 4 sisters who all have differing personalities and quirks, and Jo is the leader amongst the pack. The character really stands out because she is so unconventional in her beliefs. These girls are gonna have you laughing, crying. You're just gonna feel like the 5th sister. And I think what's so beautiful about this story too, and a lot of these classics, like with Jane Austen as well, you are seeing a lot of juxtaposition between status, and you even see that in this book with the family across the way from them. I don't think I've ever met anyone that read Little Women and disliked it. So next up, I read this series for the first time, I think 2 years ago, the Harry Potter series. I love this series so much. I am a Harry Potter adult. I love everything about Harry Potter. This is a 5-star series for me, and while I love every single book, my favorite one is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. I think I'm a little bit of an outlier here, but this is usually the book that frustrates people the most, which I totally understand, but I really loved this book, and some of my favorite characters were on the page the most in this one. If you don't know, Harry Potter is a wizard, and he doesn't realize this until he gets an invitation inviting him to attend Hogwarts, the school of witchcraft and wizardry. And you see his whole journey going through Hogwarts, but also his home life, which is just terrible. And the friendships in this story, still my favorite ones to date. Oh man, we got quite a few more to get through. I already talked about Game of Thrones and A Clash of Kings, so yeah. Next up, I have Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This blew up on Book Talk. This is a romance fantasy series, or romantasy. I really liked this first book the most out of the series. I think it was such a strong start to the series in general. And this is a book that has trials in it, and the main character has to compete in these trials, but she is the only one that does not have powers, and she has to pretend she does the entire time. And not only pretend for her survival, but also she has to somehow survive. This is a behemoth, 11/22/63 by the man Stephen King. I love his books so much. This poor thing has been absolutely through it. I guess you could say like crime fiction, crime historical fiction. Basically, Jake Epping, the main character, is given an opportunity to prevent the JFK assassination. You go on this lengthy journey of his. There's also a subplot of romance in this book, and overall, it is a perfect book to me, and all of the research that Stephen King put in to make this book what it is, I think is the most impressive out of all of it. So I cannot recommend this enough. Next up, I read this book right after I read Lovely War, I want to say, in 2023, and that is Beneath the Scarlet Sky by Mark Sullivan. We just had this sitting on our shelves. None of us had read it, so I thought I would give it a try, and it actually is set in World War II, and this is based off of a true story. And I think that's what made this story so impactful, is knowing that, and knowing that Pino is a real man and that he actually lived through most of these things. This is World War II in Italy, and this is what made me want to read this book, and this is what makes it also so insane, and he is a hero. Kino was recruited at the tender age of 18 to become the personal driver for Adolf Hitler's left hand in Italy, General Hans Leyers, one of the Third Reich's most mysterious and powerful commanders. This story was so impactful for me. I freaking love this book. Next up, I'm just gonna clump these together because I read them around a similar time and it's by the same author. I have The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, and then The Maidens. This one is actually more dark academia, and this one is just a true psychological thriller. Both of them are definitely different. This one, The Silent Patient, had me absolutely guessing the entire book. Basically, the main character, he is a psychotherapist trying to get this woman to talk. She is mute. She hasn't spoken since the death of her husband. And so the main character is trying to get her to talk about why she shot her husband. And then The Maidens has a lot of Greek tragedy elements in it, which was really fun to read about. This one had me scared pretty much the entire way through the book. It had an eeriness to it. And it's a thriller that takes place on campus, so there are some murders happening. And I think this one just really stood out to me, especially in the season. It was October, so it was spooky season, reading a spooky book, and I liked both of them. I will say though, sometimes I feel like The Silent Patient should not be a 5-star. I loved the reveal, and same for The Maiden sometimes. Alex Michaelides, I feel like in The Silent Patient, there was so much that bothered me about the book actually writing and things that were included in the book that I felt like just were not necessary. And so now as I'm talking about it, I would definitely change my rating because I remember actually being frustrated as the reader. So yeah, I think I would actually change the rating. I don't know what to though. Next up, I have The Prince of Tides by Pat Conroy. And while I loved this book, I wouldn't just willy-nilly go recommend it to people because it is such a hard hitter, and there's definitely a lot of trigger warnings that go along with this book. It's considered a modern American classic, and this is all about a family saga that spans decades. And I think Pat Conroy was so special as an author because he really writes characters that are so broken, yet you can really feel for them, feel sympathy for them and what they're going through, although you might not agree with their decisions. So he definitely writes flawed characters, but in not that like make you feel bad for them sort of a way, and it makes you kind of understand them more and make you want to be more empathetic to them. Next up, this is one of my favorite books that I have ever picked up in my life. It's Recursion by Blake Crouch. This book I love even more than Dark Matter, which is crazy because they're both 5 stars, but this one's probably a 6 stars for me. Wait, oh, this has the annotations in it from Haley, I'm just remembering. This is another one of his sci-fi thrillers, and this one in particular has a subplot of something that I don't want to mention because it was a surprise to me, so therefore I want it to be a surprise to you, and it might make your experience even better. I think the less you know about this book, the better. And all I will leave you with is there is this epidemic that's spreading that looks like a disease but isn't. It's more of a trickery of the mind. People are getting FMS, which is false memory syndrome. Basically, they're recalling a life they've never lived, and it's so vivid to them that it's driving them to death. You get Detective Barry Sutton, who is trying to figure this out, and then you also get a scientist who is very close to this mystery, and it is such a good book. Next up, we have The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is the last one I'm going to talk about from last year, 2024. That was a 5-star read for me. This book is credited to starting the dark academia genre. Donna Tartt is a brilliant woman. Her prose is so luscious. I think one of the beautiful things about her books is it forces you to slow down and just like take in every single sentence, every word. Maybe there's not so much happening as far as the plot. This book is definitely more character driven, and it's kind of a study on characters, honestly. Kind of like there's a psychological element to it as well. And this is following a group of students that are friends at college, and they're part of this secret society, and they're really participating in a lot of dangerous activities that are going to lead them down a very dangerous path. There's so much more I could say about this book, but it was a 5 stars, and I wish I could read more books just like Donna Tartt. I love her interviews. I just love hearing her talk. Next up, these are the books that I have given 5 stars this year. And I'm gonna start with, I think, the book, it's up there with Pet Sematary. It is my favorite book of all time. That is Homeseeking by Carissa Chin. I started this book at the beginning of the year in January, and it honestly, nothing has quite compared to it. Like, I really loved this book. It's historical fiction. This is her debut novel. It is so unique for so many different reasons. If you take anything from this video, I would recommend going in and getting this book from your library, going and buying it after you watch this video. This book really made me realize what I look for when I'm reading a book. What makes a 5-star to me. This is all about how a single choice can define your entire life. You are following Suchi and Haiwen in Shanghai. I would say, I think starting out it's in the 1930s, but it then progresses on all the way through to 2008 in Los Angeles, where they meet once again. And the last time they saw each other was in 1947 when Haiwen left Suchi a note only saying, "Forgive me." I'll link the vlog down below if you're interested because I talk about it a lot. But I think I'm gonna be kind of brief on it, but I could seriously talk about it forever and ever and ever. It's so amazing. The next book that I read that I loved, I don't have the physical copy, but it's Cover Story by Mari McFarlane. This is a romance book. This was also my first book by Mari McFarlane, and once again, when I read this book, I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Also a rom-com with fake dating, so it's absolutely hilarious. These two journalists have to fake date for this huge story that they're trying to get insight on, and it is absolutely hilarious seeing their dynamic and then seeing how they, of course, fall for each other. But there's also like 2 mysteries that are happening throughout the entire story, so I was just locked in the whole time. I'm over here obsessing over this mystery, then this mystery, and then the romance. This book was jam-packed with all the things that I love and look for in a romance. The next book that I rated 5 stars, I also don't have the physical copy. I left it at Haley's house. Every single time I forget to get it. This is a book that I annotated, and I don't annotate often, but I absolutely loved what Haley did with this story. This is a second chance romance about childhood friends. The main character, Blair, actually has to go back to her hometown because her great aunt's health is declining, but she needs to get a job while she's there, so she goes to the local cafe and ends up getting a job. The man who manages it is none other than Declan, who is her ex-boyfriend. It was so atmospheric. I loved the cafe, I loved the town, I loved the characters, and I also loved seeing Blair, what she was going through and her grief journey. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's not out yet, but you can pre-order it. It was incredible. And then the next book I read, actually crazy, another 5-star romance book, was If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. This book like blew up, which was crazy. I'm so glad I was able to get my hands on it. I had no issues, but it ended up blowing up. And this book is it's everything that we really have been wanting from romance as far as like the nostalgic 90s feel. This is a slow burn romance set in this little town in Vermont, and this takes place in 1997. So this just had a nostalgic feel to it, and it felt like some of those original 90s movies that we know and love, but in book form. So I ate this one up personally. I do feel like maybe it would be a 4.75 when I kind of think about it a little bit, but overall I did just absolutely love this book. And it's a slow burn romance, which I absolutely love. No, actually, the more I think about it, I think it is a 5-star. The last book that I read that has been on my mind constantly since I've read it is The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. This book is fabulous. Oh my gosh, I was not expecting to love it as much as I did, but this is a gothic suspense novel. The prose can be so lyrical at times. I was so swept away by this story, and I just loved the undercurrent of mystery because basically the main character, her name's Margaret. She is a young biographer who has been asked to write Vida Winter's biography. Vida Winters is a prolific author, but there's so much mystery around her because every time she did interviews, she was telling tales about her life. So no one ever really knew anything about her, but now she's ready to tell her story, and she asks a young biographer named Margaret to come and write her story for her, stay at her house. And her house has such a creepy eeriness to it. Margaret has to really figure out how to break Vida's walls down to get the truth because she doesn't want to waste her time and just be told tales. But also Vida is very strong-headed and goes at her own pace. You get just little crumbs here and there of Vida Winter's story, and you will not want to put this down. It is so good, and I loved how unsettling the book felt, and I still think about it every single day. That is all for every single book I have ever given 5 stars. I am exhausted. What are all the books that you guys have ever given 5 stars? And once again, I do want to remind you guys of the amazing book of the month offer because I don't want you to miss out on it. You get your first book for only $5 plus a free hat with the code HOLLY. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.